It looks like we were right, and boosting will be getting a nerf very soon, apparently. So let's go ahead and unpack some of this news and see what it means for me and my fellow boosters. One of the most common pieces of feedback we've received is the concern about pervasive sales of dungeon boosting services in-game. It often overpowers chat with advertisements and makes certain channels hard to use for their intended purpose. It's also no secret that the gold from many boosting groups is used for illicit activities such as RMT, as much of the gold that players pay to boosters is then sold for real money back to other players. The only problem I have with this second statement here is the fact that not only are the boosters doing this, but also the game is plagued with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bots that do the same exact thing, except they're not even being piloted by a real player. This part right here, that where they talk about much of the gold that players pay to boosters is then sold for real money back to other players. I'd say that's probably not a very large percentage of the gold. I'd say most of the gold probably comes from the bots, yet I don't see them doing any sort of blue posting for the bots. I just see them doing blue posting for the boosters, which have some real players who actually use it to make gold for themselves. But let's move on. Now that we've seen the final major content release of Burning Crusade Classic, we'll soon adjust the behavior of creatures in most dungeons, including the new dungeons coming in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, which is important, to make it significantly more difficult to endlessly snare and kite enemies. Additionally, we will implement a reduction to group experience earned when there is a large disparity between player levels in the same group. So this is exactly what we thought was going to happen. This is when I made that video boosting gone in Wrath of the Lich King. I made it a few weeks ago, and it looks like that is exactly what they're going to be implementing, is basically just the season of mastery changes that they put in. So the ability to endlessly snare and kite enemies will be removed via after 30 seconds in combat. The mob will gain snare immunity or root immunity or whatever, and that will make it so mages can no longer blizzard them for the entire time, and they will basically just get run over. This second part here basically adds another little blanket fix to anyone who wants to try boosting. It basically means that if you're trying to boost someone who is out of your level range, so you know how if you're level 70 and you target something that's level 58, the level indicator on the mob will be grayed out. That's because it's too low level for you and it won't grant you any experience or honorable kill or anything like that. So if that is the case, then the person who's in your group will not get any experience from you killing that mob. So it basically means that if you're going to want to boost, then you have to be within the same level range of the person you're boosting, which makes it significantly harder, as if you're trying to, say, boost someone in Scarlet Monastery, then you're basically going to have to be like level 45 doing that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to give experience to the people in your party, which basically eliminates it entirely. So this could be still something that paladins might be able to utilize, say, in the slave pens, because when death knights are released, a lot of people are maybe going to want to try and slave pens boost them, but if they're removing that, then people will be forced to quest. However, if the same changes from season and mastery come in, then this basically means that slave pens will still be possible for paladins, because we don't care about snares, we don't care about kiting, and we will be in the same level range, as the mobs in slave pens are actually green to a level 70 character. So potentially that could mean that slave pens will still be in play for paladins, and maybe even some other dungeon boosts might pop up, even though they won't be as good. But I think that this could mean that once we get to level cap in Wrath of the Lich King, we're not going to be able to come back and boost in the slave pens or lower dungeons, but we will maybe potentially be able to boost in Wrath of the Lich King dungeons, which that would be great, because this specifically will target mages. That means that literally only paladins and death knights will be left to do the job. So if you have a paladin, then this might, I mean, it could still be possible for you to boost, but we're really just going to have to wait and see exactly what change they're going to implement, because nothing is set in stone here. Of course, this is all just speculation, but I have a feeling they're just going to put the same, knowing Blizzard, they're not going to do extra work. They're just going to implement the same season of mastery change over into the classic WoW that we have now. And basically, they're just going to run with that. We plan to roll out these adjustments to Burning Crusade Classic Realms at the same time as the Joyous Journeys XP buff 2, which should happen sometime in the next few weeks. So that means that this is all coming much sooner than you think. So basically what it means is mages are going to be completely nerfed into the ground as far as slave pens goes, and we may or may not be able to boost in the slave pens on a paladin. And also they're going to be implementing this experience buff for all experience across everything in the game, but I'll talk about that in a second. So this basically means that in the next few weeks, mages are going to be leaving, paladins will be stepping up to try out slave pens, and if it's the same change as Season of Mastery, paladins will still be able to do the slave pens boost all the way until they start getting more levels in Wrath of the Lich King. So if you don't know the slave pens boost on your paladin, then I suggest you check out my other videos where I show you exactly how to do it, and I even have one where you can do it in 5 minutes. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already, and make sure you know it before the next few weeks, because paladins could be the only thing left doing boosts, and there's potential to make a ton of money there. So yeah, let's move on here. I just want to read this part really quickly. This is also a good opportunity to remind everyone that spamming chat channels with advertisements for boosting services outside of dedicated trade channels is against the terms of service, and you should take every opportunity to report players you see advertising for boosting services in channels such as general and looking for group. So this also means that if you have been selling boosts on your paladin, regardless of what it's for, not even just slave pens, if you're selling SM boosts, if you're selling RFK boosts, make sure you're using the trade channel, as it looks like Blizzard is taking another stance to only have that be advertised in the trade channel. Protect yourself here. Don't spam in LFG and don't spam in general. Just try not to get in trouble here. I don't know how many players are actually going to report people trying to sell an RFK boost in looking for group, but you never know. So just make sure you go to the trade chat to advertise boosting if you're still doing it in the next few weeks, and yeah, just protect yourself there. So let's go on to the other news that we've got. So when they were talking about the Joyous Journeys XP buff in the previous post about boosting, they were talking about this event here. In the coming weeks, we will implement a global buff that we're calling Joyous Journeys. During the time this buff is active, all sources of experience points will award 50% additional experience. We expect it to last for at least 6 to 8 weeks, beginning a few weeks before the 3.4.0 pre-patch and persisting right up until the day that Wrath of the Lich King Classic launches. So this change is actually really cool. It basically increases all sources of experience points by 50%. So everything. That means level 1, you'll be getting 50% increased experience from quests, dungeons, just regular old grinding, whatever you want to do, which is actually pretty huge. Not only that, but it looks like it's going to be coming out before the pre-patch and lasting all the way until Wrath, which means that Death Knights are going to be able to take advantage of this experience boost as well. Not only that, but if Paladins are still able to do the Slave Pens boost and this experience boost is put in, just imagine the amount of experience you're going to be getting from a Slave Pens boost. And Paladins will be the only thing left that can do it, as far as I can tell, unless Death Knights hit 70 really fast, and then they also find a way to do it. But this is going to be really crazy. So think about a typical Slave Pens boost. You're probably getting somewhere between 40 and 50,000 experience, 50% more. I mean, you can probably charge, 30 to 40 gold for a Slave Pens boost, since mages are out of the picture, and basically paladins will be the only thing left. So this could be a huge gold potential if that is still possible. Otherwise, if it's not, it's cool. This is still a really great little implementation, although it is kind of weird that Death Knights are getting such a huge boost and advantage over everyone else as far as experience goes. And honestly, I look forward to getting some alts up to max level with this nice little experience bonus. So next, let's talk about the new group finder UI coming for Wrath Classic. So I'm not going to read this word for word and go over it. If you want to, come check it out. It's on Wowhead, but I'm just going to kind of show you what the pictures look like. So we've got the group finder here, the new one that they're going to implement, and it looks like we're getting the kind of same setup from retail. You can pick which kind of activity you're interested in and then list yourself. Looks like these are all dungeons, so you say I'm interested in these few dungeons here, and then you list yourself, and then you pop up on this screen as whichever role you picked, your level, your class, your name, and what you're interested in. So you can see this guy is a healing priest and he's looking for Gundrak. This is a guy who already has a group for Violet Hold, and they're looking for a healer and DPS. So if you're a healer, you could click on this and request to join or send them a message. overall, it looks pretty good. Doesn't look too bad. The only thing that I'm worried about is you sign up for a group and the player whispers you and they say, what's your item level or what's your gear score? Hopefully that doesn't come back. And then, you know, you get rejected based on that because they just want to blast through the dungeon. But that's more so a community problem, I think, than a group finder problem. Hopefully most groups don't do that, and I don't think they will. Wrath dungeons are notoriously easy to blast through no matter what, so I don't think that's really going to be a problem. So I mean, that's not looking too bad. I'm okay with it. It's better than what we have now. It's not looking for dungeon. It's not, you know, you just press a button and you just hop into a dungeon. But overall, I think that this is a good replacement for it if we're not going to get that. So just as I was about to finish this video, they actually posted another article about some Wrath changes that they're looking to make. So I'm going to go ahead and go over some of these changes from this new article, as there is some pretty cool stuff in here as well. Most of it is just like corporate jargon and garbage that nobody cares about. So I'll just go ahead and summarize the things that you should probably take away from this article. So near the bottom of the article, they talk about some changes that they were thinking of putting in but didn't, and some changes that they are putting in. So it starts here: to further this, we've been exploring a lot of ideas that we decided not to implement at this time, such as 10-player and 25-player raids dropping the same items, heroic dungeons getting improved drops, or increasing the starting difficulty of heroic dungeons. So that means those things are not getting put into the game at launch, but they may in the future, although some of these are not really applicable to that. So who knows what will come of that. They'll probably just scrap those ideas. But the really important thing to take away here is they're going to be increasing the health and damage of monsters in Naxx. So everyone was kind of dreading phase 1 of Wrath, right? Because they all know that we're just going to be in Naxx, just steamrolling the raid. It's super easy, and it's not really a challenge, and the way we play now is on a much higher level than how we used to play, so it was just going to be a joke. So hopefully with this change, it provides a little bit of challenge to people who are raiding Naxx, and who knows, maybe those immortal runs might actually prove to be a little bit difficult. We'll see what happens with that, but overall that's a pretty nice change. So it kind of relieves some of that boringness of phase 1, just going into Naxx and completely destroying that raid over and over and over every single week until Ulduar comes out. The next thing they talk about is extremely interesting to me, so let's read it here. The second goal is about making sure heroic dungeons stay attractive throughout the expansion, blah 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 blah. We are exploring plans to add challenges to heroic dungeons as the expansion proceeds, which would also provide more valuable rewards. Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds eerily similar to Mythic Plus challenges in heroic dungeons. I mean, it's basically Mythic Plus. So they're probably going to be adding like affixes to monsters or a timer or things like that to make heroic dungeons more difficult and more appealing to people who are already in their full bis or whatever from the raids. So that's a very interesting change that I did not see coming, but honestly, it's quite welcome to me, because heroic dungeons do become irrelevant unless you're farming badges for some reason, like say you want to get heirloom gear or whatever you need. But this kind of makes it so even when you've fully completed your character in the current phase, you can still go back and maybe set some new records in a heroic plus Wrath dungeon. Who knows what this will actually be, but it sounds cool, and honestly I'm pretty interested and I can't wait to see what they do with that. There are a few other changes in here that they talk about as far as the badges and emblems go, but I'm not really going to go into that as I don't really remember how they worked back in the day, so I can't really compare them. So we'll just go ahead and skip that, and we'll just see what happens when the expansion comes out. So in summary, we have a lot to look forward to in Wrath, and we're just going to be seeing a lot of changes coming in the next few weeks here. So just to recap, we've got the nerfing of boosting, we've got the nerfing of mage snares in dungeons, we've got a new looking for dungeon tool that'll be coming out. We've got confirmed Naxx difficulty increase, as well as a potential Mythic Plus style heroic experience in Wrath of the Lich King. So that's a lot of stuff that is going to be coming out, and I honestly am super excited, as it's probably going to make the game feel really fresh and new to play, and I really just can't wait for Wrath to come out. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for today's video. If you like the content today and you want to see more Wrath content in the future, like solo gold farms in Wrath, paladin stuff in Wrath, I'm going to be playing a rogue probably, so rogue stuff in Wrath, who knows, maybe even some PvP in the future, anything World of Warcraft related, I'm going to be doing it. If you want to see more of that, make sure you subscribe on your way out today, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one. Peace.